Today's guest is Jake Himelstein, president of Bamko. Under Jake's leadership, Bamko has become one of the fastest growing distributors in the industry, ranking number 9 on the Counselor Top 40 and number 4 distributor in the PPI 100. They work with amazing clients, including Dunkin' Donuts, Grubhub, Popeyes, Burger King, John Deere, to name a few. Bamko has built a reputation for innovation, scale, and serious results. In this episode, Jake shares his journey, the playbook behind Bamko's rapid rise, and what it takes to lead at the highest level in the promo world. This was an energizing conversation packed with insights and big ideas. Let's get into it. From your perspective, give me a rundown of Bamko as a company right now and what makes you guys different at this point.
Yeah, look, it's a very large industry, the promotional products industry, right? Depending on what product categories you're looking at and what's included, it's north of $30 billion a year. And there's so many different niches, right? There's the direct-to-consumer model that sort of 4imprint has popularized and made incredibly successful. There's the traditional promotional products distributors. There's the small mom and pops, and there's 25,000 companies that do what we do. And where we differentiate ourselves is breadth of service and offerings. I mean, we are one of the first, if not the first, to have an overseas presence with boots on the ground in factory. I mean, we started our China office, 22 years ago when, sourcing directly from China wasn't even a thing. And so now we have sourcing offices in China, in Vietnam, in Haiti, in El Salvador. We're sourcing from places like Kenya, Madagascar, really all over the world, in a way that I think is not all that common in our industry. I think China's gotten a lot more commonplace. People have gotten a lot more comfortable with China, but maybe not the rest of the jurisdictions all over the world. And I think that's a huge differentiator for us. We really look at things as full, soup to nuts. We'll do everything from the website to the sourcing to the on-the-ground factory sourcing. We have a web development team in-house. We have over 100 web developers that we have in-house. We have over 1 million square feet of warehouses that we own and operate. So really is kind of soup to nuts, all done in-house. There's very little, if anything, that we are outsourcing from the process, which I think is different. And for large Fortune 500 companies, they want a financially secure, well-backed company to provide their promotional products. Depending on the brand, it's not just promotional products, right? A lot of it's gifting, it's their years of service awards, it's their point-of-sale displays, it's a lot of retail packaging, retail product. So some of it is actually driving revenue. Take an example like Athletic Greens, which is a client of ours. We're actually doing the boxes that the product comes in, the glass bottles that are given out to new customers, the wooden spoons that you use to scoop out the product. I mean, those are real retail products that we're doing. It's not just another t-shirt with a logo on it. So, we can span the whole gamut of different categories based on just the breadth of offerings we have.
Amazing. So I'm gonna. That's a lot to take in. It's awesome. It's amazing. It's totally different than what I expected. It's very unique. I want to dive into your story because we'll cut that into different parts of the podcast. But just for your own story, we'd love to hear about your story. I mean, I knew you told me you grew up in LA. Where did you end up going to college?
Yeah, so I born and raised in Los Angeles. I went to USC, University of Southern California. So I didn't leave LA. Stayed in Los Angeles. Went to USC, majored in finance and accounting, so I double majored. Kind of wanted to be in the investment banking field, but a combination of not being smart enough and the investment banks not really recruiting enough out of a place like USC. I ended up going in the accounting route, which I never really thought I'd want to do, but I went to Deloitte, spent about 6 years in the Los Angeles office of Deloitte, literally doing audits. So I was doing financial statement audits of public companies.
That's so funny. By the way, Josh, my partner, did the exact same thing. He went to Deloitte and he was in auditing as well.
Yeah. And it's kind of where everyone starts in the accounting field. And so I did 6 years of that. And when I made senior manager, I transferred into the New York M&A practice. So I moved to New York right after I got married, stayed with Deloitte and was serving KKR and New Mountain Capital, two really large private equity firms, on all of their transactions. So doing due diligence, finance due diligence, valuations, insurance, tax, HR, kind of you name it, on their buy and sell side due diligence. So I was living in New York City, was doing it for 3.5 or so years. And then my first daughter was born. This is December 2012. And my wife looks at me and she's like, we're in a 430 square foot apartment in Tribeca. It was fantastic, by the way. We loved it, loved every minute of it, but not ideal with a baby. So my wife was like, look, let's get back to LA. Our whole family's there. Both of our families are here. A lot of our friends are here. Let's get back to LA. At the time, this is 2013, jobs weren't as portable as they are now in terms of being able to pick up and do an M&A job in LA or New York. It was the job I was doing was really New York specific. And if I wanted to stay with Deloitte, the opportunity was in audit. And I knew I didn't want to continue to be an auditor. So took the opportunity to start looking at other jobs. I was actually pretty far down the line with Amgen, big pharma company, to run their M&A department at Amgen. And a couple weeks maybe after my oldest daughter was born, I was in New York, and a guy I went to college with named Phil Kused called me to congratulate me on the birth of my daughter. I talked to Phil here and there. We were friends from college. We were in the same fraternity together. I certainly knew about Bamko, but he called and he's like, oh, congratulations on Sydney. This is amazing. So excited for you. Long conversation. And then like 5 seconds before we're going to hang up, he's like, hey, you ever thought about coming to Bamko? I kind of laughed and I'm like, you mean like your like pen and t-shirt business? It's like door to door pens and t-shirts. I'm like, it's cute, but like, no, I'm 10 years at Deloitte. Like I'm not going to help run a pen and t-shirt business. And to his credit, we spoke every Friday for 4 months.
Wow.
Every Friday for 4 months. And some combination of him convincing me and me convincing him. I joined Bamko in June 2013 as CFO.
How big was Bamko at this point?
22 million in revenue. So pretty big in terms of industry size, right? Like a medium to larger size company. But we were at about $22 million in revenue, and fast forward to today, and we'll be just shy of 400 million in revenue.
Wow.
So it's essentially 20x'd in the time. So I started as CFO, did that for a couple of years. Took on COO responsibilities. So I was in charge of finance and operations.
How does that happen? Because I read that, I was like, I've never heard of a CFO also being the CEO of a company.
I mean, we were small. So it kind of had to be a jack of all trades, right? It wasn't like the company we are now where at Bamko's size now, we have to have someone in charge of operations and someone in charge of finance. At the time, it was like, well, we're going to have one person do both because we can't pay 2 salaries. So I took on both. And then about 4.5 years ago or so, Phil moved on from Bamko and I took over as president. So, the interesting story there is Bamko was founded by Phil and Brett. So Phil Kused and Brett Mars are the co-founders. The BAM in Bamko is Brett Austin Mars. That's his initials. The KO is the first 2 letters of Phil's last name, Kused. I lived with Brett in college. So Brett and I were college roommates. He started Bamko in our college dorm room. I hated the company. I hated it. Why? Because I was working in finance. I was waking up at 5:30, 6 in the morning every day, trying to get into an office where the stock market opened, working in finance. And Phil and Brett were running Bamko out of our dorm room until 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning every day while I was trying to sleep. And I couldn't get any sleep. So I would scream at them, why you starting this stupid company selling t-shirts and pens? Like, this is ridiculous. I'm trying to do important things in finance. And meanwhile, full circle, 15 years later, I came back.
It was all meant to be.
The company, yeah. So Brett's still at the company. He's our top sales rep and has been, a sales assassin for a number of years. Brett's the most talented salesperson I've ever worked with, the most talented salesperson I've ever met. Type person that won't ever take no for an answer. He's the guy that if you tell him you want the CEO of American Airlines on the phone, he'll figure out a way to get the CEO of American Airlines on the phone within 2 weeks.
That's just a crazy story in general. A co-founder of the business becoming the top salesperson of the business and not having the ego to have to be the boss, but knowing what he's excellent at and really kind of diving deep into that.
Yeah, and I think it does take some level of humility to know, like, I'm not the guy that's going to lead this company and be the manager of all the people. I'm the person that's going to help grow the revenue. And by the way, like, Bamko is through and through a sales organization. Some companies in the industry are like, they focus on the vendor side. They focus on the operations. Operations is extremely important to us and how we service our accounts. But we are a sales organization. And what we do, everything we do is in support of our our clients and our sales reps. Internally we call our sales team our internal clients, and our clients are external clients. So really, it is all about the sales team and our top sales reps. They're our top paid people. They are the most important in terms of driving the growth of the company. Certainly, the support of that from an operations perspective, account management is critical to the continued success of the company. But all of that is in the support of our sales team and growing our sales efforts, which is kind of how we've designed it from the start. And at the end of the day, we are a sales-driven relationship industry, both on the supplier and the distributor side. So, I always find it interesting when I see competitors that are cutting back on sales teams or cutting back on sales support. And I'm like, that's the lifeblood of this industry. At the end of the day, like on the distributor side particularly, we're middlemen, right? And so if you're not focusing on the sales effort, what are you? You might be improving that sourcing arm a little bit, but at the end of the day, it is a sales org.
So you become president in 2021, and this is after 8 years of being CFO and COO combination. What was the feeling like taking on this top leadership role? Because it wasn't like you were just starting from a low level. You were one of the top C-suite
Yeah.
executives in the company, but there
Yeah.
is a big difference going from a CFO, COO to the CEO, where your vision and your strategy, basically, you're the point guy. What was that feeling like?
Yeah, and I don't know if you've ever heard this phrase, Jeremy, but like it's something that I reflect back on a lot, which is like it's lonely at the top. And I don't know if you've heard that term, but like stuff rolls up and it stops at you. And so if you're having to lay someone off, or if you're having to make a tough decision for the business, like the buck stops with you. And it is lonely at the top, like no doubt. And while I have, amazing people that work under me, like ultimately the decisions kind of stop at my level. And that can be scary. It can be challenging. And so, one of the things that was challenging, really challenging for me and growing up in a place like Deloitte is sort of breeds micromanagement. Like the job is to be involved in every single detail. And I don't know if you saw this with Josh that, when you guys started the company, because he was an auditor, but the whole idea of being at a place like Deloitte is you got to be involved in every detail and know everything. And if you don't know it, you were looked at by your partner as like, how do you not know every detail? So it was challenging for me when I came into the president role. I actually went through a fair bit of executive coaching, which I would highly recommend to anyone that's looking to improve their skill set. And what my executive coach did was he talked to all the people that reported to me, got 360 feedback, and the overwhelming feedback I got was Jake has to let go of the details and let his team have enough rope to fail. And that took me some time. It probably took me the better part of my first year as president to learn to let go of the small minutia and let the team fail. Look, we have really, really amazing people here, amazing leaders, and allow them the leeway to make decisions, to fail, to have things that go poorly, that cost the company money, because it's going to make them stronger leaders on the other side. And that was really challenging for me.
I had a similar experience. You got better in a year. It took me about 3 years to kind of
Yeah.
take my hand off the wheel. It's a hard
Yeah.
thing when you're involved. You want everything to be done in such a specific way, but you can't grow that way. It's impossible. So
Yeah. And I mean, look, I even struggle with it now. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm a CPA by trade. I still have an
mhm.
active CPA license, a certified public accountant. And so as a president of a, $400 million division of a public company, I have to be aggressive and take risks and take chances on growth strategies. And I almost have to do that in spite of my background. My background is risk management, risk mitigation. I'm a CPA. And so I have to like retrain my mind like, no, we need to take risks. So if we're not taking risks in the business, we're not going to grow. Whether that's an acquisition, whether that's moving into a new country, whether that's taking on a really difficult program that I don't know if we can actually take on. I have to remind myself these risks are what's going to allow us to grow and succeed.
Well, that's a perfect segue to my next question. So day one, you become the president. What's like the first thing what's like in your mindset of how you're going to help the company grow and take it from where it was to where it should be? What was your strategy?
I mean, the first thing that happens when I day one take over as president is a massive case of imposter syndrome. Right? It's like, am I the right person? Why am I even in this seat? Do I belong in this seat? What am I doing leading a segment of a public company? Once I got over that, it's all right. We're still in the midst of COVID, right? The start date was 1/1/21, somewhere around there where I took over, but really the transition had been happening during 2020. And so we were in the midst of a crazy time during COVID. We were still sourcing a bunch of PPE. Things were still really up in the air. The industry was still pretty much down at that point. And so it was, how are we going to get through this with a remote workforce during COVID? And so I think in a sense, it actually helped me that I transitioned during a crisis because there was no choice but to roll up my sleeves and just be like, all right, we're going to figure this out. Because my transition was during, probably
Craziest time.
the greatest crisis that we'll see in our business lifetimes, hopefully. But it was a really odd time. And, what we did during that was we hired into it and we expanded into that. And so during Bamko's history, our best years have always been during economic downturns or during crisis. So whether it was the cotton crisis or it was the '08 great financial crisis or it was COVID or even now with the tariffs, those have been our greatest areas of growth because while others have sort of curled up into a ball and said like, I just got to wait for this to pass, we've been aggressive and hired new people, brought on new sales reps, gone to new types of offerings. That's really been our bailiwick is growing when others are shrinking. And so, yeah, I look back and pre-COVID, we were, probably a third of the size we are now, maybe 40% of the size we are now. And we grew a lot through PPE in 2020 and 2021. We had to replace all that business with standard
Real business
products
right.
and uniforms and branded merchandise since then, and we've been able to and still grown through that. So I'm really proud of that. Is that we had great years in during the COVID years because we were selling PPE, we were selling masks and sanitizers and gloves, but that business was all gone by the end of 21, and we made that up through just acquiring more and more clients. And I think we were the beneficiaries of being super aggressive in 2020 and 2021, bringing on new executives, bringing on new salespeople in order to allow that growth to come in the years later.
Awesome. And I read that you guys have acquired, was it 4 companies also in the last 5 years? And I was looking at the list of companies. And I just wanted for you to go back into that mindset. Obviously, you come from a Deloitte and an M&A background, so you probably experiencing what to look for. But the acquisition targets were so unique. It's not like a standard acquisition target. It's like I'm going through Gifts by Design. That's like in the more of the recognition space and individual distribution. Then you got Sutter's Mills, which is more about like bolstering your in-house production.
Exactly.
And making that, which is a completely different part of the business. Then you have Guardian, which is, it seems like a customer acquisition because now you're getting into this automotive industry.
Auto space, yeah.
Auto space. So they're all different. And then obviously there's one this year, 3 Point Management, which is also more of an acquisition of customers. So what was your mindset approaching these and how did these come about? Where this is like something you were hunting or did they find you?
No, it's hunting. I mean, we would go out and meet people, talk to people. And again, going back to what I was saying before, this is a relationship business, and acquisitions in this industry happen largely through relationships. We've never been particularly interested in, auctions or bidding processes that are through investment bankers or private equity firms. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Trust me, I have that background, but this is a relationship business. So every one of these acquisitions has come through me meeting these people at an event, at a conference, or through just a cold call to get to know them. And, sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes a couple of years. For instance, Gifts by Design, Jamie Stone, I think I first started talking to Jamie 3 years before we actually ended up acquiring the company. And timing wasn't right, didn't work out for us, didn't work out for her. 3 years later, the timing was right and we made the deal happen. But, I look at these deals, what we're looking for is companies that have a capability that we don't have a good book of business, have good people, and are making money. So you look back at these acquisitions and a lot of the categories that we're in today, we're in as a result of these acquisitions. So look at Tangerine. Tangerine, like we are in the point of sale, point of purchase display business because of Tangerine. We never did any of that prior to that acquisition, and now we are experts in that field, do tens of millions of dollars in display business. Look at Guardian, the auto business. We never did auto, and I'm talking like this is door-to-door auto dealership sales, selling them license plates, frames, it's key tags, it's the polos that the parts department wears. These are door-to-door sales. We never did that. We never looked at that category. And now we've grown that business by 50% over the last 3 or 4 years. Sutter's Mill, you're right. We now planted our flagship warehouse in Phoenix as a result of that Sutter's Mill acquisition. And we do a lot of our own production in-house, laser engraving, screen printing, full color process. We do in-house because of that Sutter's Mill acquisition. So, each one has a different story and each one's brought a different capability to us. But I love the art of the deal. I loved my 4 years in New York doing the M&A work, and it was awesome. So the deal work to me is fun. The hardest thing is let's say you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find a really good company. And, for every 15, 20 companies we talk to, maybe there'll be one that makes it into like an LOI type phase where we're actually talking about acquisition. But it does take a lot of discussions to find the right party. And sometimes it's a valuation discussion where you can't meet up on the price. Sometimes it's, there's client overlap where it doesn't make sense to do a deal. And then, you get to 1 in 20 that, okay, this is a good deal that makes sense with people we like. But at the end of the day, like, the culture fit has to be there. And
well, I was about to jump into that because like
well.
your company is consistently ranked one of the best places to work,
Mhm.
and obviously company culture is very important to you. And dealing with all these various acquisitions, it comes with different leadership, different people. How do you bring them into the fold to make the culture fit and that they work now in the new Bamko way of work?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with an excellent HR team. I think we're unique in terms of where HR sits within the organization. And Stephanie Bass, who runs our HR department at Bamko, is the most phenomenal HR person I've ever worked with. And she has a seat at the table in the most important decisions at the company, and HR reports to me. It is something that I spend a lot of time on, and that's not true of every organization. But for us, like, HR is, and generally how we treat our employees is it's basically paramount to who we are and what we do. So, look, we bring these acquisitions into our culture immediately. Anyone that we're bringing on, first of all, we have to make sure they're a culture fit. And if we are, we bring them and kind of indoctrinate them into our culture pretty quickly. And that's important because we don't want these silos of people that have different mentalities and different thoughts. Like, no, we bring them all. We're in the same operations meetings. We're in the same sales meetings. We're in the same PPAI, parties. We're at the same sales incentive trips. Like, it's immediate that we bring these acquisitions into kind of our culture. And it's tough. I mean, we are largely a remote culture. We have some offices. We have obviously our warehouses. We have a couple offices around the country. But I would say of our US workforce, 3/4 of it's remote. And it is really hard to develop a good remote culture. And I think we've done an exceptional job at that. And if you ask me, like, what I'm most proud of, it's not necessarily like the revenue growth. It's not any individual client. It's that we have a group of people that really like working here, that love the company and want to continue doing amazing things at Bamko. And, we don't have a lot of turnover. Either, from our sales reps or from our, admin or operations team. And I'm really proud of that. I think it's really speaks to kind of who we are. And a lot of people have trouble like wrapping their head around that. They're like, Bamko's this company that keeps growing and it does amazing things and they seem really hard charging and they, they're cutthroat. And that's true. Like, we do want to win. Like, one of our core values is hating to lose. Like, we hate to lose. We want to win everything. But we also treat our people really well, and people want to work here. So that sort of that dichotomy sort of is difficult for some people that are looking from the outside in.
Mhm. And I also heard that you guys, I don't know if it was merged with HBI, like you have a sister company,
Yeah.
is it like a partnership? Is it merging?
No, HPI is part of Bamko. So, HPI is HPI powered by Bamko. HPI is the sort of legacy employee uniform division of Superior. So, of our parent company. Bamko is owned by Superior Group of Companies, publicly traded on NASDAQ, based out of Tampa, Florida. So, Bamko and HPI combined are, give or take, around 2/3 of the revenue of of Superior, of the publicly traded company. So HPI is the legacy employee uniform business. But sometimes in the promo industry, when we think of employee uniforms, we think of a T-shirt for the local pizza shop. That theoretically, or I guess practically, is a uniform. But what we're talking about is large-scale uniform programs. Like, we outfit all the JetBlue flight attendants and pilots. We do the Taco Bell uniforms. We do the Walmart iconic blue vests. We're talking large-scale uniform
It's
programs.
like technical fabrics,
Oh yeah,
etc.
technical, a lot of testing, wear testing. We have our own testing lab, one in Florida, one in China, our own, that we're testing the garments. This is a much different program than what Bamko historically did, which, oh yeah, we did a uniform program, and it'd be a $50,000 uniform program for a mom and pop bakery. These are large scale technical uniforms. You're talking, flight attendant uniforms. I mean, that's about as technical as it gets. These people are wearing these uniforms for 10, 12 hours a day in airplanes. They have to fit perfectly. They have to, be every test under the sun. We've had a lot of our competition that's struggled in that space, had, American Airlines, Delta Airlines had issues where their flight attendants were breaking out in rashes and had class action lawsuits. And so these are highly, highly technical programs. And in that space, there are very specific uniform companies we compete against. Not as much on the ASI, PPI promo business side. But HPI is part of Bamko. It's under the same common management, same HR, same accounting team. So it's all together.
It's also kind of like it could act as like a Trojan horse. Like, you get a deal through your promo business and upsell them
100%.
into uniforms and vice versa. What are
100%.
the other companies that Superior group of companies, what do they own? Like, what else is
So
it?
there's 3 segments. It's the branded product segment, which I'm the president of, and there's 2 others. One is a healthcare apparel business. So think competitor of Figs, right? It's retail scrubs called Wink, so winkscrubs.com. It's actually a line that's carried by Sanmar. So Sanmar sells the Wink scrubs through our industry. And then also there's plenty of direct sales that Wink does. And then there's also the industrial healthcare apparel. So think like, the laundered scrubs that you might wear when you go get an MRI or when you go to the doctor. So that's the healthcare apparel side of the business. And then there's actually an outsourced call center that is a call center that's based primarily in Belize and El Salvador, with a couple other locations that is outsourced call center business. So, if you had like, let's say you're talking about Morgan & Morgan, which is one of their bigger clients, biggest law firm in the country, and you're calling because you have a claim to file against someone. The intake is done by the Office Gurus, which is the outsourced call center business as part of SGC. So that's a fast-growing segment, one of the fastest-growing segments of the company, and really interesting model. They call it near sourcing, right? So it's not like you're going to India or Philippines. Near source, because El Salvador and Belize are 3 to 4 hour flight from most of the southern United States. So really interesting business. We actually utilize the Office Gurus for a lot of our own internal processing. So a lot of the accounting and some of the paperwork around our sourcing and happens in collections, happens in El Salvador. So we kind of use our own internal call center to support our business, which is great.
And I'm sure it could probably also lead to lead gen also, because they're all dealing with companies, and who knows, they want Bamko
For sure.
flags.
We're cross-selling across the organization.
Awesome.
Within Bamko, we have a bunch of different pillars we sell, right? Whether it's gifting or it's uniforms or it's branded merchandise or it's promotional products. But we also cross-sell with the Office Gurus. So there might be an opportunity where, they're selling to a law firm and they're selling services. We could also do their promotional products, or we could do their uniforms. So there's a lot of cross-selling that happens. I work really closely with the presidents of the Office Gurus and the healthcare business, which is called Superior Cloth and Stitch. We work really closely together on those opportunities. So, it's a great model. They're very different businesses than the one I run, but we're able to share best practices. It's kind of like our own internal consultancy or think tank. We get a lot of calls and just go through, hey, have you seen this? Who have you talked to for that? Do you have a great person for this? And we'll also pass employees between the divisions. If we're like, hey, I need a great marketing person, and one of the other divisions might be like, hey, I got this marketing person. You can use them for 25 hours a week. So it actually works out really great. It's kind of our own little consultancy.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Final two questions, Jake, for you.
Yeah.
I guess looking in the future, what is the next level of growth that Bamko is looking for? Obviously, in the last 4 years, you've done 4 acquisitions, you've integrated these people. Like, what's the next phase for Bamko?
Yeah, it's continuing the growth path we've been on. Look, we're always opportunistically looking for acquisitions, and as I said before, we kiss a lot of frogs. We have to find the perfect company, and I'm always talking to people in our industry. And if we found the right deal, we would certainly do it. But it's also growing through bringing on new sales reps, which we are constantly bringing on new salespeople to the business, and it's winning RFPs. Our RFP win rate is I believe to be one of the highest in the industry. And so the more kind of looks we can get at large scale programs, the better. But, on terms of bringing on new people, new salespeople to the company, we acknowledge that we're not for everyone. Not everyone works out at Bamko. The people that are most successful here are the ones that want to grow. They want to double or triple the size of their business. They're not complacent with the book of business they have. They want to really expand. They want to let go of the minutia and the details. They don't want to be involved in every detail of what happens when the product leaves supplier A and gets to, client door. They want to lead that to the operations team, and they want to be out there hunting. Those are the people that work great for us, and we've had great success in bringing on those types of salespeople. But we are looking at growing in other jurisdictions. We're growing exponentially in Latin America. We have a big office in Brazil, bringing on sales reps across Latin America. That's been a huge, fast-growing opportunity for us, and we're opportunistic. I think that's what I love so much about the company is, at the end of the day, yeah, look, we're a large segment of a public company and one of the biggest in the industry, but we're still very opportunistic. We're still very entrepreneurial, and we take chances, and we're not afraid to try something out that doesn't work, spend some money on something, and then cut bait if it doesn't work. And so we've had so many failures on things we've tried that just haven't worked. And look, it takes a little bit of humility to say, like, yeah, look, that didn't work. We tried it and it failed. But I want our team, and I said this earlier about our leadership, like, I want our leadership team to feel like they can fail and not fear the consequences. And that's, I think, what's so great about our culture is just trying stuff. Like, raise your hand, try something, be out in front of the biggest opportunities and biggest challenges, and you'll be rewarded at the company. Whether the thing was a success or a failure, just like trying the thing, like saying you're going to do something or coming up with a plan to do the thing is not enough. You actually have to do the thing. Go and put in the hard work and make the thing happen. And that could come from a warehouse associate. It come from our chief operating officer. It come from an account manager. It comes from all over. Some of the best ideas we get are from people that have only been here for 6 months. It's unbelievable.
Jake, I want to end it with that. First of all, thank you so much for the time.
Of course.
Hearing the story of Bamko, which everyone in our industry knows, top 10 promo distributor, global company, extremely large, fast growing, but just at the end, talking about it's at its root, at its core, it's an entrepreneurial business. It's creative thinking. It's being okay with failure.
Yep.
And that's the way we're going to kind of grow in this next phase of the world with AI, with tariffs,
Absolutely.
with all the different stuff that are going to be challenging and changing. Having that entrepreneurial mindset is going to allow you to stay ahead of the curve. So, Jake, keep doing awesome work. Thanks for being on the show, and
Awesome.
always great seeing you.
Thanks, Jeremy. I really appreciate it.